be in Asian folk business, but here I am. I really am enjoying the discourse of the Asian on Asian beef, and I just want to say thank you to Madeline, who decided to give snark to white people in Asian spaces and then come tell us about it. Because we probably would not have had this, and I have no idea how I got here, but I'm glad I came. Because she said, why are you here? Exactly. And what are you here for? Ill. Right. And then you got the other Asians in the comment section like, oh, how dare you talk about our white counterparts? How dare you talk about our white comrades? If they want to come in here, we're supposed to be about unity. They can come in here. Like, I even linger around a little longer to help the white folk out because I'm in servitude. They could do that if they want to. How dare you talk about them? And then you got the white people in the comment section like, oh my gosh, how dare you offend us? How dare you say that we can't come into your spaces? We can't come into your culture. And then you got the black people in the comment section like, girl, yes. I know exactly how you feel. I feel you. I feel you.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right. So in today's episode, guys, we're going to be talking about the messy side of Asian TikTok, right? Why are we talking about this? Because Black Americans have noted something, yeah? Asian Americans cannot just get on one side, or they cannot decide what is right and what is wrong in their community.
Right, and in today's episode, we are especially featuring an Asian woman who most of you know, and because we have done most of her videos on this channel, right? And we also love her work, right? But today, she particularly finds herself on a messy kind of TikTok, and she is being cancelled out by her own community, and she is being reprimanded by Black Americans.
Right, guys, I'm wondering how her name is Soogia, right? I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but her name is Soogia. I'm wondering how she found herself being the trending topic on TikTok, being that she's normally the one who talks about trending topics, right? But what are we talking about? There's a video we did where an Asian woman was calling out white people who go to Asian stores, and she was just telling people how she felt seeing white people in the Asian stores.
And what landed Soogia in trouble was Soogia made a video reacting to the Asian woman's sentiments, and because of this video, her followers started doxing the Asian woman. And when she found herself in trouble with Americans, particularly Black and Asian Americans, she decided to use her Wasian babies because she's married to a white man, right? See, they accused her of using her cute Wasian babies to try and get out of the doozies she made.
We don't want to talk a lot. Let's watch what we've prepared for you, and then we come back and talk about it.
Also consider subscribing if you're new to our channel. Let's watch and then we come back and talk about it.
Madeline got doxxed simply for having an opinion, and now her entire page is drowning in hate. She stepped offline for a week just to breathe, came back, and instantly faced thousands of comments attacking her identity, her ethnicity, even her existence as a half-Asian woman. And the wildest part, there shouldn't have been any drama in the first place. Soogia, Ed, and the Korean vegan basically unleashed 5 million followers on her because she expressed discomfort about non-Asian creators entering Asian spaces without awareness. That's it, a feeling. But instead of addressing the issue, her critics turned her into a punching bag, and only one of them bothered to issue a so-called apology. And let's be honest, that apology was PR at best, manipulation at worst. A real apology would be, how do I compensate you for the harm, the harassment, the danger I caused? Instead, we got a smug speech about food uniting people, zero mention of boundaries, zero accountability, and then the my mixed race daughter shield, as if using your Wasian kids suddenly excuses weaponizing your audience. And the worst part? They know they can't openly send an army of mostly white followers after Asian creators without looking unhinged, so we get this lukewarm peace message designed to keep their white fan base happy while pretending they tried.
So there's been some discourse on the Asian side of TikTok, and Black people have entered the chat. And I know immediately everyone's thinking like, what are we even doing there? But we're there because we can relate, all right? There's a woman who went online, made a video about how she kind of side-eyes white people when they're inside of H-Mart. She just can't help it. And then all of the big Asian creators went in and threw in their 2 cents. One Asian creator said sometimes she lingers so that she can help anyone if they look a little confused, which came off as really, really strange. No one actually does that. We've entered the chat because we understand what it's like to have our spaces invaded, all right? And it's not that other people don't belong there. We just know that certain people go in there and they tend to cause trouble. They tend to cause issues. We also know what it's like to be side-eye our entire life for just looking different, eating different, behaving different. And we all collectively agree that that woman has every right to feel the way that she does. And giving a side eye is totally harmless, all right? Being a little snarky, she doesn't confront anybody. She doesn't kick anyone out. She doesn't push anyone out of her. You grow up in an area where your culture is constantly attacked, right? Spaces that are just meant for you are constantly attacked. You can't help but feel a tiny bit protective, especially if the oppressor's like constantly trying to invade, right?
H-Mart gate. Let's talk about it. I know that the internet is where nuance comes to die, but I'm going to do my best to have this conversation. And I'm glad I waited until now, because had I done this anytime, earlier, it probably would have come from a place of ego or from defensiveness. And that's not at all what I want to bring to this conversation. First and foremost to Madeline. Madeline, I'm really sorry for the negative impact that this has had on you. And I want you to know that diminishing your identity or making you feel like, your identity was in question or that your experience was in question, especially knowing everything that I know, I should have been more careful with the language that I was using and with the way that I presented what I wanted to say.
You make excuses for the white people in your life, and that's why you're going so hard to make sure that Madeline feels awful for saying what she said about H-Mart.
I just heard Soogia's apology video, and I really had to think about it because there was so much going on in that video, but I want to point out one particular thing. She has 2 kids that are Asian, and she didn't want any of her kids to ever feel uncomfortable in an Asian space, and that this was very triggering. When you say very triggering, you're making a side-eye feel harmful. And I want you to try to look at the other side of things. If one of your daughters expressed something that's a real Asian experience, imagine if 3 huge creators with a bunch of followers was like, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that, and then created a space in an Asian conversation for white people to be centered. Instead of supporting that, or maybe even saying nothing, you decided to go against that and created a space for Madeline to get attacked. Somebody that's a part of our community. Because I have a daughter who's mixed, I felt like that could have been her. And that was very triggering for me. Soogia, if you happen to see this video, I want you to kind of put yourself in those shoes and see it in that way, and maybe that will help you understand. And also, Soogia, Ed, the other creator that said something, I just want to know, what gave you the right to tell Asian people how to feel in Asian spaces? What possessed you to do that?
H-Mart gate. Let's talk about it. I know that the internet is where nuance comes to die, but I'm going to do my best to have this conversation. And I'm glad I waited until now, because had I done this anytime, earlier, it probably would have come from a place of ego or from defensiveness. And that's not at all what I want to bring to this conversation. First and foremost to Madeline. Madeline, I'm really sorry for the negative impact that this has had on you. And I want you to know that diminishing your identity or making you feel like, your identity was in question or that your experience was in question, especially knowing everything that I know, I should have been more careful with the language that I was using and with the way that I presented what I wanted to say. I want you to know that I was reacting to the behavior that you were saying, that you were giving people side eye and that you were a bitch and that, you couldn't help yourself and giving, snark to people in the grocery store. And again, I just want you to know that I was reacting to the behavior, not to your identity as a Asian person. And I take full responsibility for not making that distinction. That's totally on me and something that I should have been way more careful with. And I've been really trying to unpack a lot of my feelings about it. Why did I have that reaction? Why did I immediately go to that place? And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I grew up in Los Angeles in the 70s and the 80s and 90s. And not only was that a time where being Korean wasn't celebrated, Korean culture, Korean food, Korean music, Korean movies, no one knew the first thing about it. So I always felt really isolated, and I felt like we were always kind of in the margins, and we were siloed, and we were relegated to certain parts of town, and our food was not talked about. And nobody knows more about, feeling ashamed for the lunch that you brought from home better than I do. I lived that shit until I begged my mom to give me bagels for lunch instead of, kimbap. I don't want to go back there. But that doesn't give me an excuse to minimize somebody else's experience because of my own. And I see that now. I know that a lot of people think that I was coming from the perspective of somebody that was like, oh, I'm full Korean. How dare you, somebody who's Asian, have this perspective? And the funny thing is that that is not at all where my perspective was coming from. That is not the lens that I was looking through it from. I actually was looking through it from the perspective of a mother of Asian daughter. And the irony is that I was looking at it from the perspective of a woman who sits front row center to two very different experiences of Asianness. My younger daughter, and I've spoken to my daughters about this, and I told them that I was going to talk about it, and I got their permission because this is very personal to them, and I didn't want to kind of, share something that is, deeply personal to them, but they said that it was okay. But my younger daughter, she looks just like me. A lot of people would never know that she was mixed at all. She doesn't look mixed. While my other daughter, my older daughter, is completely on the opposite end of that spectrum. She's got long, reddish blonde hair. She's got fair skin. And a lot of people, they say things like this to me, like, oh, wow, you have one Asian one and one white one. And that is incredibly triggering. And so a lot of people were saying that I didn't watch the totality of your video and I just had this knee-jerk reaction, which is actually not true. It was actually the last part of your video that actually prompted me. And so I wasn't actually putting myself in that scenario. I was actually putting my daughter in that scenario. And the thought of her walking around an Asian supermarket and having somebody side-eye her and look her up and down because they think that she doesn't belong there, it does something to me. It does.
I'm never in Asian people's business like I have been this week, but take a listen to this.
I have something to add. Why is it that every black person on my For You page who is commenting on the side-eyeing or not side-eyeing white people in H-Mart, they get it like that, like what's going on and why that's a thing. But like there's fully grown Asian creators who are like super defensive of white people for some reason.
Black people do not crave proximity to whiteness. We do not think white is ideal and black is less than. We do not put whiteness on a pedestal, and we do not try to assimilate into whiteness because black culture is one of the dominant prevalent cultures in America. What you're experiencing is black people knowing who our oppressors are, understanding the histories of our oppressors, and understanding how being in proximity of our oppressor has never benefited us ever in the history of our time here in America. Asian people have been made a model minority since your inception into this country as Chinese people. And that has been extended to Koreans, Cambodians, everyone else who's Asian by proxy. And that assimilation or that desire to be considered the model minority and to be propped up above Latinos and black people always makes Asians side with the side of the oppressor, wanting white people in their spaces, being the group that marries white men more than anyone else as a person of color. And that also includes the proximity to whiteness that you guys hold. Now, you couple that with the fact that white people in this country are obsessed with non-white cultures, but do not prop up non-white cultures because they understand that they're dominant people in this country and they can steal from Asians if they want, they can steal from Latinos if they want, they can steal from black people if they want, but less so the last, because black people have a tendency of calling white people out when they do steal our stuff and culture appropriate it, whereas you see Asians don't really make enough noise to combat what white people take from them. So seeing a white person in H-Mart, I would give the side eye all fucking day, for sure. Especially because I live in LA and I've been to H-Mart a couple of times. It's the only place I can find oxtail and a bunch of other stuff that I cook when I cook Caribbean food or food that black people want. It's the only place where things are still priced regularly. And once white people find shit, prices go through the roof because come with me as I find this new cool spot in Koreatown. We don't need that. The reason why black people can call this out is because this has been happening to us since the inception of time.
Soogia's apology was bullshit and no one can convince me otherwise. With 1.5 million followers, she knows her words hold weight, yet she refuses to take accountability for spreading false narrative and fueling the backlash against Madeline. Her audience attacked Madeline without knowing the full context that she helped escalate. Instead, she doubled down by saying, "I was reacting to your behavior," referring to Madeline side-eyeing white people. She acted like that reaction was comparable to white people experiencing racism. It's not. Racism comes from systemic oppression. Madeline's reaction comes from living through that oppression. Meanwhile, white people still benefit from white supremacy built into our government. They are not the same. We're in a political climate where white people feel entitled to be in marginalized spaces and want to indulge and appreciate everyone's culture. But when people of color are assaulted, discriminated, or even deported without due process, they stay silent. And Soogia conveniently left out the part where Madeline said,
people keep going to Asian grocery stores, keep supporting small businesses.
Because of the false narrative Soogia pushed, white people harassed Madeline with racist comments, sent her bad pictures to perpetuate negative stereotypes of Asian food, and even attempted to dox her and her family. Soogia keeps preaching that we should all share our culture and that we're all connected with our food, but how can there be unity when white people can't even be held accountable and acknowledge their privilege? Instead, people dismissed Madeline's experience as a Asian woman and claiming that she was self-hating, which ironically proves her point. Also, I understand Soogia is worried about her white passing daughter possibly getting side-eyed, but it's also your responsibility to teach her how to navigate spaces with dual identities. Also, comparing a side-eye to segregation and racial discrimination is ridiculous. One hurts feelings, the other dehumanizes people of color. They are nowhere near the same.
You make excuses for the white people in your life, and that's why you're going so hard to make sure that Madeline feels awful for saying what she said about H-Mart, when it's actually like crazy because I'm Central Asian. I have the privilege of like being white passing a lot of the time. And when I lived in New York City, I would go to H-Mart because it made me feel like I was, with my people. If I didn't find like a Persian market or like a Desi market or like a halal store, I would just go to H-Mart because I love all foods from Asia because I'm Asian. And I've always loved East Asian cuisine. And obviously, we don't live in a bubble. We all like don't live in Asia. We live in America. We live amongst like other groups of people. And we also live amongst like colonizer descendants and like white people. So it's like everyone is allowed to talk about race and political issues and all that, but it's like you draw the line at her side-eyeing someone else that like looks white. They weren't even white, they were Asian. And Madeline made it a point to like take it as like a joke kind of because she's also Asian, like white and Asian. So I just like don't understand this discourse. Why are you making her feel so bad just for side-eyeing someone when there are white people out here like literally terrorizing and making a person of color or black person's life a miserable hell right now?
So H-Mart Gate is back open, and what I'm going to say probably has been echoed time and again, but this topic is really important, so let's talk. First, my opinion, then we can talk about Soogia and Madeline. Everyone is welcome in an Asian grocery store. Go support those businesses. Go explore the magic of the Asian snack aisle. But if you do get side-eyed, which you probably won't be in the actual real world, in real life, remember, first of all, if you're not white, that Madeline's original video was directed at white people. And if you're white, know that we have plenty of reason to do that to you. And it's not just Hollywood and lack of representation and how they've portrayed us over the years. It's not just the racial jokes and stereotypes that we grew up with, sometimes around our food, which you guys all seem to love now. It's about politics, colonization, war, history, things like the Chinese Exclusion Act and Japanese internment camps. So if an Asian person is giving you a side eye, know that it's more of a warning to be respectful in their space because we're used to being disrespected. It is not a get out of here right now look, in my opinion. So again, everyone's welcome in an Asian store, but if someone decides to give you a little side eye, so what? Have some empathy, okay? Need to work on that too. And I'm glad the black community instantly had our side on this one. Soogia, if you're watching, I think you need to realize how impactful your words are when compared to the words of someone like me without your following. When all you say is that you're so disappointed and that you think everyone should be inclusive and you miss all the nuance and context that might be behind a side eye, that's dangerous for someone with your platform to do, as we clearly saw with all the spiteful responses to H-Mart Gate. But it's so nuanced and so delicate, and delicate topics on the internet are kind of dangerous because there is no middle ground usually on the internet. Everyone's so polarized, and in a topic like this, like that can be very dangerous. So I hope you guys vibe with what I'm saying and can understand like a bit of the context sometimes when it comes to these kinds of these kinds of things.
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about this video on the comment section, right? I have to say one thing right now. These are the dangerous times for you to be influencing anything, because at the end of the day, I do understand that we are all human beings and we are prone to making mistakes, and definitely there's something we are gonna be doing in this life that is gonna be a life lesson. For Soogia, I feel like that day came because normally like she has a huge following on TikTok and people really
people
respect
of all races especially respect her, right? But she has been accused of trying to appease her white followers in particular in a situation and a group chat that she wasn't supposed to be cuddling people's feelings, white people's feelings.
Right, and she also has been accused of trying to center white people in Asian culture, and I feel like definitely I do understand where Asians are coming from when they make that statement, because when you're busy talking about a certain culture and you're talking about an outsider who is invading that culture and does not respect it, those are Asian people who are trying to speak about how they feel about that, only for Soogia to come out and invalidate, and try and not minimize
how
what
the lady was feeling,
So I do understand. And the worst part is because of her video and because of the followers she had, there are those ones who really took what she had to say the way she meant it, and they went out and doxed this poor lady, And so question is, people are like, you should, if you're really, really sorry, you shouldn't just say you're sorry. You should go out of your way, because you should take responsibility for the outcome of your video. And at the end of the day, it ended up affecting that lady for speaking her truth,
Right, and I do get that it is within everybody's right to think and feel and say whatever they want to say, but I think it becomes problematic when it starts to physically threaten to harm the other person you're talking about.
And to be honest, I didn't see anything bad with what the Asian lady was talking about and what she was saying, because she talked about how she felt when she saw white people going to their stores and buy their Asian food, when in reality, when she was growing up, they used to mock their food and culture.
Upon their food,
exactly. That group wanted them to feel embarrassed about their culture, So I feel like she was quite valid, and she's validated in feeling the way she was feeling, and that is her communicating. And this is how people learn that this and this is wrong, because if she never spoke up, she would have never brought this debate on the internet,
Right, and right now, I feel like I do love this era for not only Asian Americans, but other groups other than the black people, because just as a black brother here said, for the longest time, black people are the only group of people who've been known to be addressing these issues that affect their culture and affect their identity as the black Americans of America. But it is quite a different kind of air when you see other groups like the Asians now starting to speak up. And right now, they're trying to hold each other and themselves accountable for whatever they let happen to their race and their culture, right? And it is quite sad or unfortunate when some of these young people try to come up and start speaking against whatever they feel is wrong that is being done by other races regarding their culture, and an older person who should know better
from her own
community comes and tries to slap her down to shut up. You get what I'm saying?
Right. I feel like it's this generation that will bring change, because they've decided to talk about it.
For the longest time, it was looked upon as a taboo for someone to speak up against white people and white supremacy, specifically because of Asians being considered as the model minority. They didn't want trouble with white people.
And they said as much after elections when people were asking, where are the Asians? Why
are they not talking?
Exactly. A lot of them came out saying it's not our business. We're not going to get involved.
We're just looking towards getting money and moving on with our lives. And they had to start speaking up when the ICE started targeting them as well.
And the Hyundai plant was one good example, because because they were targeted, and the Asian community finally came out, you know. And I say this is another topic that this young lady brought onto the internet that really has made the Asian community come out in large numbers, because right now, like, I can't go for a few minutes without coming
for 5 minutes without coming into an Asian person's content.
Exactly. And that is a good thing, because they're finally growing a voice, and it's because of that woman's video, you know.
Right.
And right now, I really want to see the number of Asians who really truly believe that the words that lady said was not true, that themselves, they've never felt that way at some point in their lives, you know.
Right.
It doesn't mean that people don't want white people. No, that is not it. It just means that they are trying to communicate how they were made to feel, and right now they want them and the generation that follows to know that
understand
it was wrong.
Yeah, so that in future, that the treatment they were given growing up cannot be rendered to their children.
Right. So guys, I don't know, let us know what you think about this video, and I feel like this way will raise better generations if we have these conversations, you know, because there's no way you're gonna be hating on a certain culture, and then you get to a certain point in your life, you realize actually Asians have
whatever
the healthiest diet.
Yeah, whatever we were sneering upon is the healthiest diet.
And then all of a sudden you start visiting their stores, you want to
and
try
you want
this
to
out.
be welcomed without addressing first the issue that happened, and also trying to educate other people in your community as you have educated yourself on the other, what is it called, races, food and culture.
Right, but it's a good thing that her own people are coming out right now to hold her hands, because there was a point where she was really struggling. She was alone, and
fighting this fight alone with the black community and a few Asians.
Right, and a few Asians. But anyway, guys, but do we say, let us know in the comment section what you think about this video. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here, and we'll catch you on our next episode.